are you? This is Michelle Bella here with the Invisible Gardener, Andy Lopez, and we are coming from your soul to your soil. Once again, we'll try to get a little bit more regular here, once a week. That's our goal. How are you, Andy? Nice to see you.
I'm doing absolutely wonderful. It's just amazing. So many things are going on here that I can't wait to tell you what I'm going to talk to you about today. It's like just
Well,
it blows me away because I've been right about this. I started talking about this when I did my radio show in the early 70s. So
right.
it's like,
Well, it's
holy
been very
cow.
cold. I'm sure you have something to say about that. And we've had hail, we have ice shards in Malibu flying from the sky, falling, hurting all the kids at school. They're just sharp, big hail balls, and it's just been freezing. It's
Right,
been
we have
so
15
cold.
inches, 15 feet of snow in the northern California. 15
I
feet.
I know people are stuck at Crestline in San Bernardino. They're snowed in. The berms are second story, like to the condo roofs.
Right, and
Uh,
over in Ukraine, they had to stop the war because it was so cold. We'll get back to it when it warms up. And around the world, it's the same thing happening. And you want to know why all this? What's really going on?
with the global warming and the ice
Right,
age.
right. Most people are just starting to understand global warming, right? They barely grasping that. A lot of people don't really understand global warming and all this stuff. What's really global warming? Now, if we start talking about ice age, wait a minute, is it warming or is it getting colder? So that's why it's a little confusing in a lot of ways.
But it's
But
both. It's both because
yes,
that's
ma'am,
how it goes. That's how then you have mass destruction. I
that's right.
know.
The normal cycle in nature is you have a warming period and you have a cold period. Ice age always follows global warming, always. There are some major differences going on now than in the past. A global warming would be like thousands and thousands of years, followed by an ice age, thousands and thousands. When we talk about thousands, we'll talk about tens of thousands of years, right? And the last global warming was called the medieval warming period. That was during medieval times. What is that, 14th century?
Mm-hmm.
And what happened then was in Europe and across the world, there was major expansion. In Europe, they were expanding, cutting down the forests and doing whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that caused a minor change in the global, caused a minor global warming. It lasted for 500 years, more or less. But that caused an ice age to start. It's called the Little Ice Age. That too lasted for 500 years because normally if it's warming 10,000, it would be cold for 10,000, right? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And the way you can tell, so you remember Napoleon when he had all that war and he was freezing and he lost his army because it was too cold. That was during that ice age period. Same thing
Oh,
with England.
you mentioned something with the painting. Bring that up, Andy. That's so true.
Right. So there was a painting of George Washington crossing the Delaware. There's blocks of icebergs floating in the river.
Right.
He was towards the end of that little ice age.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's going on now, and I have to explain to you why that really happens. And I figured out on my own because I'm fairly smart and I really tune into nature and I understand what's going on. Do you know the difference between salt water and fresh water, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you know the ocean salt water, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you know what happens when salt water gets cold?
What?
It freezes, it floats.
Okay.
And so and the reason why we're having a ice age followed is that fresh water freezes faster than salt water. Salt water, because it's salt, takes harder, higher, more lower temperatures to freeze as opposed to fresh water. So when you
Oh,
have global warming, you're going to have a lot more fresh water melting. The icebergs are fresh water. So
the
the
ice,
icebergs,
fresh water. Right, right.
right. So the icebergs melt. And where do they melt into?
The salt water.
Right. So what happens?
Um, the salt water gets less salty.
That's right. It gets diluted. Exactly right.
Okay.
So what happens is that, see, you know what the Gulf Stream is?
Yes.
Okay, so the Gulf Stream, what do you think the Gulf Stream does? What's the main thing that the Gulf Stream does?
Well, isn't it a weather pattern, the Gulf Stream?
There you go. It causes the seasons.
Okay.
Causes the season. So what would happen if the Gulf Stream stopped golfing, streaming?
Well, could that ever happen? Could the Gulf
Yes.
Stream ever?
Yes, but that's not the question. What would
Oh, and
happen?
the weather would be really disrupted terribly.
Exactly, exactly. And the
Like
reason why the Gulf Stream circulates is because of the way salt behaves when it gets cold.
that's what activates the Gulf Stream?
That's what makes the Gulf Stream cool because as it circulates and it gets back to a certain part of the Earth is warm, warms it up. And then when it goes back down to where it gets cold, a certain cold area, it gets cold, so it causes a cycle to happen. So if as more and more fresh water gets dumped into the ocean, it stops the Gulf Stream. The Gulf Stream doesn't flow anymore because the fresh water and salt water are two different things. Salt water will be on the bottom, fresh water will be on top. That's the way salt water is heavier than fresh water. Fresh water does not circulate, it just freezes. See, so it stops the Gulf Stream. So what happens is that as it gets warm, so a normal cycle is that the Earth gets warmer and warmer and warmer over thousands and thousands of years. So it slowly causes the change, right? It slowly causes the change. It gets so cold that you don't have a summertime. It's just have a winter time.
That
And
would be
eventually,
terrible.
the cycle will come around. Mother Nature will straighten itself out, start to warm up, whatever, to whatever reason, maybe the sun or the way the planet revolves. There are lots of reasons why it would slowly start to warm up again, provided you stop why it was getting cold again. On a normal cycle, the Earth has this thing, it normally goes through the cycle. So, but what's going on now, in the last 100 years, we have done more and change of the temperature than happens in thousands and thousands of years normally,
That's
right?
frightening.
Right? So more and more fresh water is melting, right, than ever before, faster than ever before.
Hmm.
You realize that during the Ice Age, New York was under 200 feet of snow.
Oh, wow.
With the
Really?
Ice Age, the glaciers would come in and cover all of North America, which just be covered with a massive layer of ice, right? Right? And that's the way around the different parts of the world. You have this Ice Age, right? And it's interesting too. Remineralization. A friend of mine, Don Weaver, wrote a book called Remineralization of the Earth, and he says the Ice Age, the glaciers are Mother Nature's way of remineralizing the Earth, because the glaciers come and crush all that rock, crush everything into a fine powder. And when it goes back, the Earth was recycled that fine powder. And to this day, you can buy glacial rock dust, different types of rock dust, all due to the action of the glaciers on that particular part of the world and crushing the rocks into the dust.
So glaciers are not just ice.
Glaciers are basically ice, but they run on top of the Earth, which are rocks, and they crush it down.
Got it. Wow. Okay.
Right, right.
Oh, that's fascinating.
So that's how the Mother Earth remineralizes this stuff. See, so right now we're going through this very weird. Because I
So you
was
think that's what's going on? Is Mother Earth
no,
Gaia remineralizing herself?
what's going on is that we have disrupted
Disrupted
the cycle, and now it's gotten so hot really fast, it's going to get cold again. And so,
really fast.
right in the early 1970s, I was saying, look, it's a natural cycle to get hot, but it's also going to get cold. It's going to get colder and colder, hotter, hotter, colder and colder, colder. Before you know it, it'd be nothing but cold, and that's what's going on now. We're having the worst winters than ever before all the way around the Earth. See,
I
they're
know.
getting colder and colder and colder, and we haven't even started. And it's going to be faster because the temperature is going. What do they say? 1 degree, we've had it. 2 degrees, and we've had it. Right?
Really?
And what's happening too is Mother Nature, throughout the millions of years it's been around. You know what permafrost is, right?
Permafrost?
Yeah,
What is that? Permanent frost?
yeah. So what is that?
That's frostbite.
No, there are certain places around the Earth that has permafrost, like in the Arctic, all over Russia, all across different parts of Alaska.
Is it?
Permafrost is basically permanent frost. And what they're saying is that this got so cold it's not going to melt anytime soon. And what happened was permafrost is 90% carbon dioxide.
Carbon
Up.
dioxide.
It freezes up and catches everything, holds it. That's how Mother Nature. That's how come we are here, because Mother Nature somehow decided we're going to take all this carbon. It goes into the earth, but it also gets frozen up it's solid into the ground, frozen. So now, as we melt it, carbon dioxide is being released.
Wow.
Right. So everything's happening really, really fast than normal. Because once the carbon dioxide is released, we don't have the system. Do you know that maybe 2,000 years, maybe 1,000 years ago, no, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, the Earth was literally covered in a rainforest. All of North America, South America, Africa was, even the Gobi Desert was a forest at one time. And you know what trees do?
Give oxygen,
And what do they take in?
carbon dioxide.
There you go. So Mother Nature set up this really cool system of, it's called sequestration. That means grabbing and putting it, holding it. Like the earth holds that, the water, ocean holds the carbon dioxide. So it has all this system of holding the carbon dioxide in, which we have now managed to release all this carbon, and we don't have all the trees and everything that was here before to balance it. So it's going to take a while, even if we were behaving now, for it to maintain itself. It may not even go back because there's nothing saying that it's going to happen the way it happened before.
Right. So carbon dioxide is what we breathe in, and carbon monoxide is what we breathe out?
No, we trees breathe in carbon dioxide.
Okay, trees breathe it, right.
And
But
what they breathe out is oxygen.
so, right, we get the, okay, I know this.
Humans breathe in oxygen and they give out carbon dioxide.
Or monoxide.
No, carbon dioxide is one of the things we breathe out. Carbon monoxide is what comes out of the gas.
Then carbon dioxide is kind of dangerous, isn't it?
Carbon is needed for everything. The microbes in the soil, they take carbon and they use it. Everything has evolved around, we're called carbon beings because everything revolves around carbon. But yeah, too much of a good thing. We can't breathe that, so yes, it's a problem because that causes the climate change, it causes everything. It's taken a long time for Mother Nature to set it up. It's just perfect for us.
That's what we're kind of segueing onto all sorts of things, but I got this from Dr. Wagner, the gem elixir.
Yeah.
And I know that you used to make them for him in the 80s.
Yeah.
The gem elixirs, but I think there's carbon in there, he said.
Probably, yes.
He said this one this is the most, he goes, I've never seen one work. And he goes, it's because of what's in it.
Right.
It's not just the gems.
No, it's not.
He said carbon, I think.
That's right. And what I do is I collect, well, I order them now from different rock stores. And so there are different forms of rocks. And a lot of rocks are just basically carbon in a crystallized form. So yeah, the carbon is important because we're carbon beings and carbons give off a certain amount of frequency that we tune into.
Right.
And your electromagnetic field depends upon how much carbon you have in your system. But let's go back to what's going on here is that the icebergs melt the fresh water into the ocean. They stop the cycle
of the Gulf Stream.
The Gulf Stream. And so we're gonna have harder, longer winter times and higher temperatures for summertime. That depends upon where you live.
Right. Is that only in North America above the equator?
No, it depends where you live. For example, in the Antarctic, it's actually getting colder and the snow is building up again. Whereas in the Arctic, it's melting. In the Arctic, you'll find the permafrost. In the Antarctic, you won't. And so it depends on where in the world you're at. Actually, what the climate change does, And it's
what's going on in Florida?
What's going on in Florida is it's in a very, very bad place to live because that's going to be one of the major places that some changes are going to happen because Florida, people don't understand it, but it's an island, Swiss cheese island. It's basically half of it's below water, and the only thing was holding it up is because there was fresh water there. Now we have pumped out the fresh water. That's what humans have been pumping out fresh, water from the soil for a long time, and that takes millions of years to fill it up again. So there's going to be some major changes, and it's right in the path of all these massive hurricanes that are going to be coming right through there and doing their thing. And so it's just going to be a difficult place. Well, choose your fire. From the frying pan to the fire. People say that I'm leaving California because it's really bad. Well, where are you going to go?
Right. No, exactly. We had lots of friends from our Waldorf school split, but and they say my New York City friends, oh, I couldn't live there. The tsunamis, the earthquakes, the fires. They feel safer in New York City. I mean, this was 6, 7 years ago. They said this, not after pandemic, and I don't know what's going on in New York City, but it's not, nowhere's for the faint of heart, and everybody has its drawbacks.
Right, New York is going to be, it's even colder than ever before. All kinds of blizzards, all kinds of really, it's going to be dramatic change because what happens is think of it as a pendulum. Normally, the pendulum only swings down here, see, normally. We have taken it all the way over here and then let it go. It's like, go back the other way. So the worse we do things to it, the worse it's going to react. And these reactions, well, part of my article said, okay, so it's not bad enough. It's only, it's we're going to be going through a heavy winter, but we're also going to be going through a nuclear winter because all these nuclear power plants are going to get frozen. So imagine if they break and you have all these nuclear radiation everywhere, and
Wow.
it doesn't go away in thousands of years. So yeah, that's another
I eat
little
seaweed and take a drop of iodine.
right. So it's like, and I have a friend says, "Oh no, we will evolve to live in a
We have to protect ourselves. We have to
right,
protect ourselves. Can I ask you something back
sure."
what you were just talking? How do we increase the carbon in our bodies so we can pick up these good frequencies?
Well, there are different ways. Normally, when you eat, you're getting carbon. So that
So
means
eating good
that
food.
what you're not eat, if you eat fresh vegetables, yeah, I used to go to the garden and eat. That's how you get your carbon. That's the way we normally get our carbon. But if we get it processed or whatever, it reduces the carbon content amazingly. It actually changes it when something gets heated up, when something gets frozen. It changes the structure of the carbon, so the carbon is no longer acceptable by our body. Even we can take activated charcoal. Okay, that helps get some carbon in our system. But the way
I need some.
normally, right, the way we're normally set up is what we eat. What we eat.
It's so important what we eat. It's unreal how
Right.
important it is. And what they're talking about is these kids giving them some sort of permanent obesity shot. So they'll be permanent patients. And it's so sad what's going on. I was looking at a Nike site for my kids to get some new basketball gear, and they literally show like super pudgy kids, super pudgy 10-year-olds. I'm like, to show that, that's, and I said, this is America. I don't, it's really crazy. It's really, and I tell the kids, this is when it's an important time to eat well. You're 13. This is when, so when you're 25, you can dabble with junk and yada, yada. But I mean, changing that now, that's why I can't stand the public school system.
Junk.
In that public school system since this divorce, the junk that I pull out of their jean pockets is unreal. It's disgusting. Before I put it in the washing machine, I'm like, what the heck is it's the stuff we give them. The teachers just push it to the kids in the public school and wondering why they're so hard to handle when you're giving them Sour Patches for treats at 10
Exactly.
o'clock in the morning.
I was lucky as a kid. I was the
What's that?
oldest. As a kid, I was really lucky. I was the oldest, and
Right.
I didn't fall for
Probably
any.
ate a lot of soil.
I didn't fall for any of that. What I fell for was gardening.
Yeah, you probably are healthy, that you look amazing for your age
That's
because you
what I
eat
fell for, right? That's what I
vegetables,
fell for,
dirty vegetables.
right? That's what I fell for. Is I would go to school and I would bring a lettuce. I would bring. I told you my project in the seventh grade was to do edible landscape at the school. I talked to the principal into letting me do an edible landscape. Well, probably one of the first ones.
I know we need that now.
You know what happened?
Yeah, the rabbits ate it, or the kids, what?
I grew tomatoes. That was a mistake.
Oh, they threw them at each other?
The cops and everything. I got taken in. She says, don't grow tomatoes. So I grew cabbage. They throw the cabbage. And what I did too is I didn't want to do phys ed. I wasn't into baseball. I was into gardening. I says, what's wrong with phys ed and gardening? Hello? They said, okay, you can do a garden for your phys ed, right? And
Good.
that was cool. We did a garden. I was the only guy, all ladies. We had vegetables, and even then, nobody knew how to grow. It's an internal thing. You grow something, you should know what to do automatically because that's our nature. We're farmers and we're growers, right? We're hunters and growers,
Right, hunters gatherers.
hunter gatherers. So and it's really very important now than ever before because I was watching. Well, I listened to our friend David Wolf. He talks a lot about this. I was also Shiva, the lady, was talking about it, and another guru
Right,
guy.
Shiva.
What's the name of the guru guy that has a bicycle?
Oh,
Motorcycle?
Thought Guru,
Right. He was saying basically the very same thing.
Oil Mission.
If you don't eat, what you should eat should be within 2 hours of you either picking it or cooking it.
Would that be great?
So 99% of food we eat are months, if not 6 months old already, sitting there.
Hey,
And that is pure junk. Your body goes, what? And it has to eat it.
farmers markets, I guess, are good. If everyone just ate a little, farmers market, organic, raw stuff, start there. That's a real
Right,
good way to get the carbon up and
right.
healthier and gut microbes
And that's
happening.
important too. That's important because you go to the farmer's market, you talk to the farmer. So are you organic? Are you chemical? What are you doing? And that's the key.
Oh, they have to say too. But I mean, as far as like sustainable, not it's from the, like from when I go to Pavs here, pavilions, God knows when that truck delivered that stuff. And I mean, I know it's rotating, but I hear what you're saying that, of course, the fresher, the better.
There are lots of people in Malibu that when they have a farmer's market you can go to, they grow it there. I would say 99% of them are very good at not using chemical pesticides because they know, they may still use a chemical fertilizer, even though they don't realize the chemical fertilizers is poison to your body because you're getting that in your system too. So you just talk to them because that's the key to healthy life. You either grow it yourself or you know where it's coming from. You know who grew it. You know what's going on with them.
Right.
You see, and that's the key to it, is to grow your own food, especially now more than ever.
Right. And even could have a lettuce in a pot on your balcony.
Exactly right. So a long time ago, I started doing, this was the early 70s when I met Ann Wigmore, the Hippocrates Health Institute. And
Oh, that name rings a bell.
she would have trays and she did sprouts. So tray full of
to do that.
in soil because she was very much against doing it in the water, growing and sprouting in the water. She wanted it in the soil because she believed that the soil, exactly what I do, the soil will give you the nutrients and make it a healthier product. See, right?
The hydroponic stuff is not nutrient rich.
No. So in terms of growing things on a portion stuff, you can literally do, it's called a sea of green. You have a big tray with soil, and you grow your vegetables in there, small little vegetables that get to fill up the whole tray. You get a scissors and you cut and you eat.
I would love to do. I need to do that because I went all over to looking for sunflower sprouts, not pea sprouts, but the sunflower. Nope, nowhere. Can't find them anywhere. I might have to go to Santa Monica farmers.
You mean the sprouts or the actual seeds for the sunflower sprouts?
No, because we have a ton of those.
Yeah.
Sprouts that you eat, that you get at the market to eat.
You should grow them yourself. They're real easy to do.
Well, remember what happened? I was waiting for them to become a sunflower, but the rabbits bloody mowed them down in one night.
So what you do is you start them in those trays.
Right, exactly. I got to start.
Grow them in the trays, and the trays you could put almost any place on your front porch.
I love the do-it-yourself center.
Right, on your front porch there, you just get a couple of trays, you put some good soil in there, you sprout it, and it will just fill the tray up. You cut it, you have massive amounts of sunflower sprouts or whatever kind of sprouts you want. That's what I'm doing on my front porch. I'm just going to grow sprouts in trays because it's so much better for you too, And so that's the key.
Rather than the jar?
Yes, I like the jar every once in a while because I drink the liquid.
Yeah.
But I really want it to grow a little bit more. A little bigger, because they're much more nutritional. It really does it's a big difference. I mean, removing toxins for starters is a big difference on providing carbon to your body and really microbiologize, brings the microbes back into your stomach.
Right, the sprouts.
The sprouts, right. And what you do is you don't wash the soil off. Ideally, you pick the whole thing and you cut it up with a little bit of soil in there. That's where you get the microbes from. You see what I mean? So that's what the part of our show is to help people understand what's going on with climate change and how they can best deal with it. The best way to deal with
it. We're goners, man. We're goners.
The best way to
better make the best of it because life is short. Be happy.
The best way to deal with
Like,
climate change is to change your consciousness, to say, look, I'm going to do my individual
that's a
thing.
practice. That's a
Right.
daily practice to change your consciousness. Because it's that really meaningful phrase. You got to take it off the mat. I could have a sodden off for 2 hours from 4 to 6:30 a.m. But come 8 o'clock, I'm screaming at the kids. So the
Exactly right.
consciousness is a constant practice because you could flip back that quick.
Exactly right. And I have the same issues too. So I have a friend who's a monk. He says, take your beads with you. Do the beads, because the beads has got constantly reminding me, constantly reminding. So no, I'm not good. I have beads, see, but I'm supposed to. So ideally, you have to constantly be meditating, even while you're walking, while you're talking to people. You have to constantly be. I love the Violet Flame mantras. You can just
Love the
say them to
vibe.
yourself while you're talking, while you're doing things. It constantly reminds you. You have to be. That's what I liked about Baba Ram Dass. Be here now, right? So I'm learning all this stuff, and I've been going through this forever. So imagine people who are just new at this. What do I do now? You know what I mean? So that's what we have to do, but it's a slow process. It's a regular thing. Like what we're doing here is a regular thing. We're going to be here on a regular basis. We're
It's a
here to,
process.
right. We're here to answer your questions, which by the way, you go to invisiblegardener.com, you spell gardener right, and use
It's
the
right there.
inquiry form. You use the inquiry form. You can say, I've heard you talk this. I have a question. If you want to be a guest on our show, you have something you want to tell people, we're very open to that. There's a book up there you should check out. It's
Don't
Don't Panic.
panic, it's organic.
That's right. It's a wonderful, wonderful book. The best book I've ever done. I have a product called Super Seaweed, which is a microbiological activator. You really need that, and there's a lot. And our newsletter, we have a wonderful newsletter. I have a great person who's doing all these things. And of course, Michelle.
Lisa de la Rosa.
Exactly. And you're part of our team now. She's our manager. So we're going to be doing this podcast thing. We're doing lots and lots of things.
Right. And Andy, don't forget that you could have a virtual house call with Andy. He'll look at everything. And Andy is the shaman of the trees here in Malibu, is working with huge, big, huge Veeps for decades that could barely leave a reference because they're so afraid. But Andy has turned historical trees around where the chemical arborists have not been able to do it.
I'll tell you a real simple story. So this lady I met, she's a customer since '84. She had 14 different certified arborists go to her house because there's one, it's called a stone pine. Now where she lives at,
that's where the old railroad station went, the Anderson, what was that woman? Mary Hay?
They owned Malibu.
They owned Malibu, right. That railroad, right.
And they made their own railroad track. And right there.
Tiles. They made their own tiles.
They planted that tree and they put a little house there for a train stop. That used to be where the train stopped. It's Ridgeway, I think it's called Ridgeway, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Where the train stopped. So this pine tree is like 50 years old. It's the only one of its kind in Southern California. Huh? Well, it's a little bit older than now. It was 50 years ago when I started counting, you know what I mean? And the state of California told them, this is a designated tree. You cannot do anything. As a matter of fact, we're going to buy your property out from you and you can't do anything with it. She talked them into it. She'll take care of it. And it had a bark beetle. So all the arborists would come and say, you got to cut it down. There's nothing you can do to rescue it. So I've been there since, what, '84. How many years is that? Right? And the tree is still there. They still come by and go, any day now, the bark beetle is going to kill this. And I said, don't you really want to know how come the bark beetle are not touching it?
They don't have any interest because they're pig-headed.
Do you have an idea why?
Because you're feeding it, you're giving it coffee?
No. Here's the way it works. Now I'm going to say it real fast. So the way it works is that all the insects, like the bark beetle, you know what bark beetle does? They drill into the bark of the tree and they make a tiny little hole and they put their babies in there. And then when they leave, their babies hatch and they eat basically the tree, right?
Right.
So what happens is that, we talked about refractometer before, right?
Right. Let's not go there.
Right. The Brix level. No, I'm just saying, but the trees have a certain Brix level.
Right. Even non-fruit bearing trees.
Yeah, all living things, living plants that have a Brix level. And when it drops down, pests come attack. So the pests have genetically been evolved throughout the years to know when that Brix level of that tree drops because it's perfect food for my child. I'm going to put my babies there and they're going to eat it. Why should I put my baby in a tree that you're going to starve because you can't eat? Duh. See? And
So
so
the
what I
tree,
do,
got it.
so what I do is I bring the soil back to life because the soil is what feeds the trees. See, in the
Right.
chemical world, they say, "Oh, we don't need the soil; we just feed the trees." Right? Give it this and give it that. It's not going to work because the trees have evolved to get food through their root systems, not to be injected with some chemical.
Right.
See?
Right. No,
And
I
that's a big
agree.
difference.
That's a huge difference. I kind of agree with the body with that when people are getting these vitamin shots.
Exactly right.
The
It's
vitamins
exactly.
aren't meant to be shot into your veins.
No, it's not. It's
For
not.
your mouth. It's
So
bad
the
enough we do supplements and gelatin caps, but let's get old school and like eat our vitamins. Everyone's sitting around here with IV drips in their arms, sitting for 30. Really? I
so you know
mean,
what's happened with the astronauts when they go up in space? They used to get a tube that they squeeze down to eat.
yeah,
They're
yeah.
finding out that they can't do that for long. They actually have to eat something.
Wow.
See, they actually have to eat vegetables and something alive because it changes their genetic. They found out that their genes were changed. Those who were up there a long period and came back, your gene has just changed.
Yeah, it can't be good for your body.
Right. So that's what's going on now. So we can't eat this stuff. Same thing with medical and with the plant. We got all this junk, which is not what Mother Nature wanted us to eat in the first place.
Right.
How to do it. That's why it's so important to either grow your own stuff.
Your own stuff and
But you
try
have
to
to have
stay away from the highly processed foods.
exactly because there's nothing in there. There's no minerals, nothing in there. As a matter of fact, what's in there is the stuff you don't want, like lead and mercury and
Right.
cadmium.
I have a lot of heavy metals in my body, I just found out.
Right. There was a study done recently, and I'll send you the link to it, but almost everybody's got heavy metals, lead in their
Air.
bodies because lead gasoline is in the air and you breathe it.
Right, and I fill up my gas.
Exactly right. So you have to do things. The sun Corella, by the way,
Right.
one of the best tools to eliminate toxins. And I didn't bring it with me, but I do have a photograph. It shows all the different types of vegetables that eliminates toxins from your body.
Oh, let's have that the next time.
You see, because that's what happens. You can eat things that helps you eliminate your toxins. That's the way it normally works. So if we don't do those things, we're going to accumulate. Well, normally you accumulate toxins in nature anyway, normally. But this way, we're accumulating toxins because people driving cars, with lead, right?
Right. Well, the activated charcoal is a good thing to take. And,
Yes.
and I know cilantro, I think we already talked about that being a natural chelator for heavy metals. But I was just at an MD in Beverly Hills and I started talking to her about activated chlorella and Dr. Wagner and and she's really open to all of that. And she says, "Oh, I'm afraid to take that activated charcoal, and the next day if I have to come to work." But that's not, I mean, we all take it regularly and you don't have this eruption.
No, you don't. It's not psychedelic. It's not psychedelic. It's not going to change you. I mean, I'm so glad that I ran into David Wolf because I tried to activate
I turned you back onto him.
Huh?
I'm the one that turned you back onto him.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Because I had known about him for a long time because
I know, that's what you said.
He did the have the best day ever kind of thing, But I never really knew that he had this activated charcoal because I would go to Glassman's or wherever, buy some active. It's like 1% activated charcoal, more junk in there. I'm going,
I need some. Can you give me some? I'm out.
yes, ma'am. I bought so much of them. I'm taking like 5 of them every day now. And when I don't do that, I find that I get all clogged up. I get, because I'm still living. I used to eat 80% raw and 20% cooked. Now it's 20% raw and 80% cooked. So I have to stop that. I internally know that. Every time I go to any of my customers, I want to eat their vegetables and I want to eat what's in their yard.
You should, because it's abundant and they are happy to feed you your apple a day,
Yeah, when I was over at Jean's, she says, you're eating a lot of my vegetables. I go, well, you're not eating it. It's going to go bad if you don't eat it.
Well, she's the one that's particular.
Yeah, she's very particular. So I'm having a wonderful time today. We're going to do this on a regular basis.
Yeah, we'll see you again.
Because now the show has been going once a week, but we're going to gear up to more. So go to the website, invisiblegardener.com, check us out, and thank you very much for tuning in, okay? Take care now.
Yeah, bye. Happy
Bye.
growing, of course, organically. How do you say it?
Happy growing organically, of course.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for listening to my show or watching it. See you next week. Remember, it's invisiblegardener.com. That's me, Invisible Gardener. Bye. Bye.